As your world becomes more disrupted and uncertain, strengthening your resilience is likely top of mind. But how? How can you best become more resilient without having to experience big change and big devastation every day? By the end of this video, you're going to be armed with 2 ways you can practice strengthening your resilience. 2 ways that don't require experiencing really big change or loss. Let's get it. In this video, I'm first going to refresh on a resilience concept that I've spoken about before. Then I'll dive into 2 ways you can practice strengthening your resilience, both rooted in this unique concept. A concept I've gotten both an Emmy Award-winning physician and a world-renowned thought leader to buy into. Okay, I first want to refresh on a concept that I've shared before and actually talk about in my book, which is resilience as a muscle. And ironically, I was talking about this concept during a fireside conversation. I was being interviewed by an Emmy Award-winning doctor. I was at an event in Atlanta. And so I started talking about resilience as a muscle. And she was like, you know what? In all my years of practicing medicine and all the surgeries that I've done, I've never seen a resilience muscle. Which, I'd never been interviewed by a physician before, so I didn't quite know what to do. Besides, have a bit of a joke and share a bit of wit. But this is the concept of our resilience, our emotional and our mental resiliency. And that resilience as a muscle. So if you think about our physical muscles, we have to go through strength training in order for that muscle to grow. We have to break the muscle down and then allow time for that muscle to repair and build itself back up again. And then, of course, we break it down as we're going through strength training. Well, this works really well as an analogy to our resilience. I firmly believe that it's not anything that we're born with. It actually has to get strengthened and built up over time. As opposed to weight training, which is what we do to strengthen our own physical muscles, with the resilience muscle, we have to go through change. We have to practice that mindset that's required for us to have that resiliency. And I actually think about that resilience, that spring back, in the same way as I think about lifting a weight, right? So devastation or loss hits, there's some type of a strain. There's some type of a depress. And then the muscle has to spring us back up, right? There's a strain, there's a depress, then the muscle has to bring us back up. Now, as strong as your resiliency, that's going to determine how quickly you can come back. Right? How quickly you can come back up. And this muscle grows stronger the more times it gets strained, the more times it gets depressed to spring itself back up. So with that concept understood, let me dive into 2 ways that you can actually practice this strengthening of this muscle without going through a lot of big devastating loss or big devastating change. The first practice is to strive to force that depress or that strain. So again, just to put it in context, when you're just moving through life, that strain might happen when you've been given a new manager. That strain might happen when you're going through a global pandemic. That strain could happen when you're going through a multi-billion-dollar acquisition, when you go through a really difficult breakup, when you lose a loved one. That creates the depress or the strain. And so to practice this, you have to strive to find a way to force that strain to happen. And of course, this doesn't mean, or I'm not inviting you to go off and quit your job every day. I was actually chatting this with Simon Sinek not too long ago on his podcast, A Bit of Optimism. But rather, this is about forcing that low-risk depress or that low risk strain, striving to find ways to put yourself in a position where you're the dumbest person in the room, where you don't have much knowledge, you don't have any talents or any gifts to do the thing that you're striving to learn. That's going to create that strain because you'll be putting yourself in a position of discomfort. You'll be putting yourself not at ease, right? Especially if you can walk in and state, you know what, y'all, I'm the dumbest person here, but I am here because I'm ready to lean into the discomfort and I'm here to learn. I'm here for my growth. And so that's a way that you can actually engage in a low risk strain. And by doing so, you can then strengthen that muscle. Strive to find things that you're not necessarily gifted at or talented at that is outside of that zone of comfort to create that discomfort where the strain can be created. But the practice isn't complete. The resilience doesn't truly grow and strengthen unless we couple it with the next practice. By the way, curiosity piqued, you getting value from this, a little intrigued? Make sure you subscribe because I drop content like this all the time, talking about emotions and resilience and going through disruption and building a muscle all the time. So make sure you subscribe so you'll be one of the first to get notified when a new video drops. All right, let's get back into it. The second practice is about resting and reflecting in order to rebuild. Okay, so resilience is a muscle, right? And just as I mentioned, we go through strength training of our physical muscles. As a part of that strength training, we have to give our muscles time to rest and rebuild. This puts me in mind of when I was at Georgia Tech and I played Division I athletics there, and my strength trainer would strengthen or test out a certain group of muscles on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The same muscle group, we were strength training that muscle group Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then a completely different muscles group on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And what that did was allow a day for the muscle to rebuild, to repair. And just as our muscle needs to be able to repair and rebuild in order to grow that strength, we also need to be able to reflect when we're going through, a new training, when we're learning something different, or when we're going through change. It allows us the time to reflect on what we've learned, what we've gained, the good that has come from moving through that change. And the more that we can reflect on that and have that memory when we're next in a situation where we have that strain and we're up against something that's really testing our resiliency, we can remember that good that came. We can remember what we learned. We can remember how we grew. We can remember the connections that we made, the good that came from the last time that our resilience was tested. And it's those memories, that learning, that time we take to reflect that makes our resiliency that much stronger and that much quicker. So really the strength comes in taking the time to reflect, not striving to move from one thing to the next, going from one training to the next, one devastation, one loss to the next. Invite yourself to take the time to reflect. I've just been through something very, very challenging, very, very difficult, but I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna remember all the things that I've learned, the things that have come from this, because those memories are gonna serve you the next time that strain hits. Speaking of resilience, this is something that I talk about, that I write about, that's all a part of the work that I lead. Of course, my work sits in the intersection of change and emotion, and a lot of it is about building and nurturing resiliency. And so before you go, I do wanna offer you something for free. It's actually the introductory chapter of my book, Change Enthusiasm, How to Harness the Power of Emotion for Leadership and Success. And it's this growth mindset that's gonna help you nurture that resiliency. When that strain hits, when you're in that bout of, going through that difficult change and you're having to flex that muscle, it's going to give you the mental framework to move through it, recognizing your ability, your opportunity to grow. And this introductory chapter is going to top line what this mindset is all about and how you can begin putting it into practice today. Because I want to make sure that you have the data, the research, the insights to ensure you can accelerate your growth through even your toughest change challenges as you work to continually strengthen that resilience muscle. I'm Cassandra Worthy, and until we meet again, keep growing and keep rocking.